Welcome to another edition of RCE. This is Brock Palen. You can find us online, subscribe to the show, find the RSS feed, etc. at rce-cast.com. I also have with here Jeff Squyres, one of the authors of the newly released OpenMPI 1.6. So, Jeff, thanks a lot for your work on that, and thanks a lot for helping with this show.
Yeah, we're very pleased we finally hit that milestone. I think we said this in the podcast that we recorded yesterday as well, but, you know, these things sometimes get mixed up in actual publishing order, so we'll see who actually makes it out, whether you hear this announcement 3 weeks from now or very soon. But, hey, one other thing I wanted to plug real quick, too, is that just recently I had a book chapter published about the internals of OpenMPI, that more specifically the overall architecture of OpenMPI. It's in a book called Open Source Applications, The Architecture of Open Source Applications, Volume 2. And actually, all the proceeds from that book are going to charity. They're going to Amnesty International, so not even getting a dime for that. And I'm just one chapter of, I think, 25 or 26 chapters. There's a lot of other well-known open source applications in there that it's fascinating to read about how those things are architected, like the Hadoop file system and Git and Firefox and some other things like that. So it's a good book and it's a good cause, and go buy it. You'll do a little good in the world, and you'll learn a little something too.
So our guests today, though, we have a repeat guest, which is a very exclusive club. Getting to be stuck on the phone with us twice. Yeah. Is Doug Smith from Colorado and Péter Molnár. They are going to be talking to us about this year's student cluster competition. This is a great opportunity for students, so if you have students who are interested in HPC, this is something you should pay close attention to. So, Doug and Peter, why don't you go ahead and take a moment to introduce yourselves?
Well, like I said, my name is Doug Smith. I'm with the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics at the University of Colorado. I am their network and HPC architect.
I'm Péter Molnár. I'm associate professor at Clark Atlanta University.
Okay, so before we go too far into anything, what is the student cluster competition?
So the competition is for undergraduates. It gives a group of undergraduates an opportunity to build a high-performance cluster on a limited power budget of 30 amps and basically run a small high-performance computing center in a 10x10 booth at the conference. It runs 24/7 for about 48 hours. And they get to run a lot of scientific applications that get used in day-to-day science.
All right, so this is at the supercomputing conference, right?
Yeah, this year it'll be held in Salt Lake City in November, and it'll be the conference is the November 10th through the 16th.
Okay, and when does the actual cluster competition run during that conference? It's only a couple of days in there, right?
Yeah, we'll actually, we haven't nailed down the exact hour-by-hour schedule, but typically it runs Saturday through Thursday. And we have set up on Saturday and Sunday, and then we start the competition bright and early Monday morning and end it Wednesday afternoon.
All right, but there's months of prep before that, right? I mean, it's the actual competition is almost anticlimactic because it's 4 days of flurried activity, but there is a huge lead up going into that, right? Tell us a little bit about what teams do to prepare.
So currently, we are accepting proposals from teams all over the world who want to come and compete in this. And the teams will typically start, like I said, in the spring, partnering with vendors, putting hardware together, compiling the applications, and sort of benchmarking their clusters. Many of the students, since this is an undergraduate competition, don't have any experience in this specific area of computing, so they're entering a steep learning curve starting in the spring and culminating in November.
One of the challenges is for the teams is to identify vendors and then come up with a solution. So we have set out a set of scientific applications, and the students and their vendor partner need to identify how to build a system that would be most suitable for these kind of applications, such as using GPUs or using many cores. And then again, the cluster that they run needs to be within that 26 amps power budget.
So you mentioned in the spring, though. I mean, we're in May right now. Can new teams apply right now? If someone hears this show tomorrow, will they be able to still try to participate in this year?
Oh, sure.
So what are the deadlines?
So the proposal deadline is May 27th. So you have to have your proposal in before that day, and then we will be notifying teams towards the end of the month, like the 31st.
One of the things that is new this year is a pilot program that is based on a different type of hardware, the little fee systems. And this is an educational cluster designed for educational purposes. And teams might be still, if they have some experience in high-performance computing, might be able to organize and apply for that track if they have not been participating in the student cluster competition prior to this year.
No, wait a minute. So I've been a judge for this competition before, and Jeff has also. When you're talking the little iron systems, those like, you know, a couple motherboards in a box, that's something new. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, the idea actually started from considering whether it would be possible to have a competition like this, a similar competition on a much smaller budget, meaning that instead of trying to find a hardware vendor, which there are only just that many, if teams could just buy for a couple of $1,000s, a couple of $100, buy components and build a small-scale high-performance computer which could basically perform the same type of computation or use the same applications and kind of replicate the same experience that the standard or big iron cluster competition has, just on a smaller scale, which would maybe allow us to create regional competitions. And
interesting. So do they have different metrics that they're judged on, or are the requirements different over there? So like the canonical 30 amps requirement is the one that we talk about all the time for the big iron one. Is there a different power requirement, or do they run different apps on the little one?
Well, that's actually something that we need to work out. And it's basically what we did for this year. What we're planning is to have a pilot competition. 4 teams will be invited to use the little fee system that was developed at Earlham College. And so we're actually going to provide them with the same hardware. There's still a lot of factors that they need to, if they understand the system, that they can tweak on to be competitive. But the vision is for this type of competition to broaden that hardware requirement. And I think one of the things, it's easier with the big iron to say, okay, we do a limit on 26 amps, which is basically power supply that goes into one rack. For a smaller scale application, that is kind of has to be developed. And we hope with leading up to SC12 and then the results of the SC12 little fee competition, that we have a better idea how we could form this kind of competition and what kind of parameters we would set that would be similar to the ones that we have in the big iron competition.
So back to the traditional big iron competition, you keep mentioning this 26 amps, so they're limited by how much power they can draw. Like, how much power really is 26 amps?
Well, you couldn't run 3 coffee makers on it. If you look at household appliances, toasters and waffle irons and popcorn machines, you couldn't run more than 2 or 3 of those on 26 amps.
So they're really constrained here on how much power they can draw. What happens if like a team goes over? Like what happens in that case?
They'll be penalized or disqualified